Hello, guys. How are we doing tonight? Let me just adjust my head on my microphone real quick. Might be a little weird for a sec, but it should align back. Come on, guys. How we doing? Haven't talked to you guys all week. I know during this weekly outlook, I said I wasn't sure if we were gonna do a lot of PA reviews. Would have loved to do a lot more, but was tired the last few days. Just starting to feel a little bit better. And hopefully, we can have some nice markets for the rest of the week because I didn't get a chance to trade yet. Not even today. Wasn't feeling too well, but I don't know if it's the same for you guys. But whenever I get sick, I sleep a lot. But then once I start waking up at more regular hours, I know I'm starting to get better. So that's what happened today. So by tomorrow, I'll probably be back on the charts, and next week, hopefully, I can have a good week. Thankfully, had a good first week of July, so just riding that wave. Just took the short and this news hit. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you want to know the truth? I don't care much for the markets when Trump is laying out his law or however you want to call it. I don't care much for that because I don't believe it affects my day trading at all. And I will rarely take trades outside of regular trading hours, right? The New York session. Whenever I do, or I guess my investments and such, I don't know. Truth is, I just don't. The only time I will do something like that is to trade all-time highs because I'm hyped up. But now you didn't need a genius to know that we were due for a retracement. And as we talked about during this week's outlook, which was also our monthly outlook, I wanted to see price expand aggressively through this high. If not, my next target was this low, right? Previous week's low and aligning with this low on ES right here. So we had clear downside objectives. And unless we were going to close, and I believe I even draw a very nice candle during the outlook, unless we were going to close aggressively through previous week's high, I was not interested in any more longs. And as we can see, why am I seeing the Friday the 11th? Oh, yeah, the day open. Sorry. As we can see, we opened, expanded lower, made a swing low, and then expanded right away to that high. This is exactly the first thing we wanted to see, right? This is what we were discussing during the weekly outlook. I believe I had actually this drawing exactly, but then we didn't close aggressively. What does that tell you? We're due for a retracement. Now, where are we going to retrace to? Most recent range. And I want to go in depth about this, right? You kind of put me on the spot, Francisco, telling me you want some knowledge. Well, we're going to go about it. Premium and discount doesn't give you a discount and efficiency. Now, of course, if you're just looking for a small retracement, just go down to the 4-hour range and we'll see right here that we have an order block. So whether you prefer to use the consecutive candles or, as I do, just the last candles for precision, you had some clear retracement objectives, right? But for me, whenever I don't have a discount and efficiency, I like to use a bigger range. And now all of a sudden, this low of Monday's range is now the target. And you might have heard from a lot of people how they use Monday's range for any given week, right? It works for reversal weeks. Sorry, guys, I haven't spoken English in a few days now, so I need to warm my throat up for it. But I don't personally like using Monday's range, just overall. I just wanted to give it a shout out to the guys who actually do use it because it's showcasing a beautiful example of what we're probably going to see this week. But we have our clear discount target. So from this high to this low, we have a clear framework. So even Thursday, which is the day we're going to review now, but also going into today, we have clear objectives. Of course, now we're like, what, 2 hours and 40 minutes in the day, and we're almost down 1% already. Are we going to see some nice trading during New York? Well, we'll have to see once we get there. But it's already a lot of movement for the day. Let's just say it like that. For Thursday, we took out previous week high on the previous day. I was expecting a bearish day. Now, if we just, let's actually hide that. We won't be using previous day high and low as we had an inside day. If you guys are unfamiliar with it, it's Thursday's candle was between, well, it pretty much traded within Wednesday's candle, at least on NASDAQ compared to ES, right, which still had to go reach this level. So actually we'll draw these out as buy-side liquidity just so we can keep track. And then we'll go down to a 15-minute. Forget about the huge downside that we're currently doing. So good job if you guys are in a trade like this. Definitely some nice structure to go for a short there, 100% with SMT, of course, being showcased. But for me, that's not the kind of trades I'm looking for, right? This is not part of my consistent framework. This is more discretionary, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Don't take it like that. What I mentioned is that we were bearish because NASDAQ took out that level that we were looking at, which in this case is previous week's high, right? And then from that point on, you will be looking at short. If we're looking at the daily structure, honestly, just seeing the initial movement from this, I'd say at this point, oh, we might see a bearish trending day, right? We formed a high that we do not need to break. But we did have a bullish London, which led to a London framework being formed, right? 2 to 5 a.m. range, one side being taken out pre 9:30, and then after 9:30, you'll look for the other side to get targeted. As we see at the 9:30 candle here, beautiful movement. We also had 8:30 news, right? This was our main interest. And then in the PM session, we actually had a retracement on NASDAQ and on ES that led to even more bullish movement. So as you can see, in the same 3 15-minute candles, NASDAQ did, what was this, 1.5%? Oh no, not even close actually. Did 188 points lower, while ES barely moved lower in those same 3 candle and actually closed almost positive at this point, right? 0.2%. So ES was clearly more bullish. The markets were uncorrelated, so that might be a little harder for a lot of people to trade, I guess is the best way to put it. But with all the SMT that was present, you still had some good targets. Basically, when the markets are like this, my idea of how I frame trades is a little bit different. What is different, you might ask? Well, I just am more conservative. So I'll take profit more and I'll take profit more frequently. I'll trail more aggressively, just to keep it simple in that regard. I mean, if you want simple, just look at 9:30, due to swing higher. We also have a bunch of SMT, but the one we can see with the most ease, I guess, is just from that 9:30 swing all the way up here. We'll mark it out on ES as well. These are the highs of around 8 a.m., if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, around 8 a.m. Then you have the 8:30 news. You have this SMT. You have a nice Judah swing pre-market, as well as right at 9:30. What is a Judah swing again? Time-based manipulation, right? A move in the opposite direction. We are already bullish. We're looking for, bearish. Sorry, we're looking for a retracement. Daily structure aligns, where you can now frame this as accumulation, manipulation confirmed with SMT, London framework. I'm sorry if I'm going quick in these regards, but these are things we mention every single day. And if these are new to you, well, resources tab, right? And I'm not saying that for you guys in here. I'm saying that for the people who might be rewatching that on YouTube. In our Discord we have a resources channel, and all of these frameworks that I just outlined are all explained there. I mean, you guys can see, I don't even think anymore. I just look at what the indicator tells me. Breaker block formed. First valid entry at this area is this tiny little fair value gap. Now, 3P to your rate gets your stop where? Of course, I'm not looking all the way back here. You could use this inversion fair value gap, probably inverted, right? Yes, it was. So this is also a valid entry, but this is slightly too far back for my liking, right? If you guys are looking for an absolute number, I'm always looking within the last 100 bars. This is more than 100 bars. This is 186 bars, right? I know this number because I now use it in one of my bots. So if you guys were ever wondering, I know I wasn't ever precise with that specifically. How far do I look back? But it's within the last 100 bars. That means no matter the time frame, I'm looking at the last 100 candles. But in this case, you wouldn't have that. So you'd be looking at fair value gap, and inversion fair value gap. So your stop wouldn't be too wide here at 22 points. just to midnight open, you could have a very nice partial of 1.8R, right? Midnight opening price here. But the real target and the one I would have held for full confidence here would be London low. Now, from that point on, what can you target? Well, you have a bunch of important swing points, right? You have relative equal lows right here, right? These are the first things I notice, right? Whenever I do this, that's why I zoom out so much. You notice the important areas. Now, of course, these are relative equal lows as well in my book. Now I see this level as well that is of great importance to me. These are the first things that we notice. And you don't have to think further than that. Where you see pools of liquidity, right? And I like to draw them all whenever I'm trading. And of course, they are not green when they are lows. Now I just put them all green. Actually, I like to use just purely blue whenever I'm trading, but this, I heard actually, that this can get quite hard on the eyes for most people. So if not, I mean, red is not better for the eyes, but that's something you can have. And as you can see, it would have been pretty easy. No retracement until that first objective. Then you had a slight retracement, reach the next objective, slight retracement, reach the next objective, for a total potential of 5.7 R of movement. That is a pretty decent trade. Now, honestly, me, after this, I'm one and done. Why would you even keep trading? But what if you were bullish? What if you missed this? What if you were looking at ES and you were like, well, ES doesn't look bearish at all, so I don't want to take this short. Okay, well, then I'm looking for a long, right? And with all the SMT, right, all the levels we just lined up, or even simpler, just looking at London low, you could justify a long just as well. So now the first long that showed up wasn't successful right here, right? So I will remove these red lines for now, or I'll leave this bottom one. But if we see here, this is an entry, this is a valid entry. We're not too far in premium. You can frame retracements now with all the SMT we just discussed, right? With ES, it makes sense to at least look for a retracement higher. Now with your 3PD array stop loss rule, you'd have your fair value gap here and you'd have order block. You would have gone and stopped out in 2 minutes, right? 2 candles. So it would have been pretty quick right there. But the next entry definitely showcased, I don't know if it was successful, well, clearly, but it gave you a much better entry at this point in time. Now, I don't think we had any SMT at this area, but we did form some a little later, right? Not even. Okay, so no SMT at all, so this would not be an A+ setup. You guys know me, though. You don't need it to be perfect. You need it to be good enough, I guess is the best way to put it. Now, this, once again, I'm seeing these relative bugs that never show up on the indicator. But now, every time I review them, like in live markets, this showcases beautifully. This showcases this fair value gap as a unicorn. But I do need to fix them for review purposes in case people want to actually start backtesting strategies with this indicator. But as you can see, this is a fair value gap. This is a valid unicorn after this candle that created the breaker block, right? So you have your fair value gap here. You have inversion fair value gap below, inversion fair value gap. So your stop would be down here, a little bit of a wider stop compared to the first one. Not to the first long, pretty standard at this area. And now where would you target? Would you target another return to midnight open? Well, this would be an easy way to go and target 2R. Of course, if you were just looking for something like 1.6, then you would have gotten that and gotten out. But you guys know me, 1.7 is the absolute minimum risk to reward I can look for. This is my threshold of profitability. That's how I like to call it, at least. This is whenever I take a position for me to have positive expected value, EV. That is a term often used in poker, but it means that every time I risk money, I'm expected to make money. Now, it doesn't mean that I will win every trade, but it means that every trade I take is positive expectancy towards me making money. That's just a whole way of saying I need 1.7 R for me to be profitable with my win rate. But in this case, how would you find a take profit, right? If you were framing this as a retracement, then, well, first of all, no matter if you were framing this as a retracement or not, we do have to go find our first premium inefficiency. So premium and discount, we have a very clear premium fair value gap right here. This is your target or partial, right? If I'm framing this as a long and I think we're going to go break high of day, this is an expansion, then this is not going to be my full target. This is just going to be my partial. But if you're framing this as a retracement, then in this case, this would be your full target, which of course you can leave a runner on, as I like to do most times, but this would still be a full target. Now, if you're wondering what the correct way of thinking would be, in my opinion, this is clearly something I would frame as a retracement, but I would trade it on ES if I wanted to see an expansion. Because as we saw with a huge expansion from NASDAQ, ES barely moved lower. So I would understand ES is much stronger today, so if I'm trying to long, I'm going to long ES. So in that case, on ES, I would have looked for way different objectives. But here we're looking at NASDAQ. So in that case, this would be a full target, right? I would not look to partial before then. Just doesn't make sense with the close proximity. And then I would definitely leave a runner for in case we go back all the way to the current day's high. In case we go back to 9:30 open, the daily open. That's why I have these levels on my charts at all times. These are always take profit levels and areas I look for price to revert to, right? Once we expand, I look for reversions to these opening prices. And in this case, you would have had all the way to daily open, the opportunity to go all the way to daily open. So even though we had a little bit of a smaller movement today, I guess, right? We don't expect simply, what is that, a 1% day, a below 1% day on a high volatility news day. But you had some very successful frameworks along the way. Once again, with the best one being the first one. So of course, if you missed that, you would have had one loss followed by a win. So you still could have had plenty of opportunity, to make money. But the first short was definitely the best. I mean, we can always speak about the PM session because we did have a lunch raid. I feel like last week, in the last PA review we have now on the channel, that we saw something exactly like this. So a lunch raid that was unsuccessful, right? We took out lunch high and did not reach lunch low, but still provided a successful winning framework. Let's look if it happened. For example, this bearish breaker block did not give you an entry, no unicorn to trade off of. This bearish breaker block, as you can see from the tiny little arrow guy up here, this candle is where it was formed, and then we traded back into here, gave you an entry. So this one would be a loss, and followed by, you would have had an entry on that inversion fair value gap right here. Let me just be precise. Your stop would be where, right? You have inversion fair value gap above, and order block. Stop would be all the way up here, and this one would have been successful. Now, of course, it did not reach all the way to lunch low, which would have given you 7R, but it reached all the way to midnight opening price. And if we consider SMT, for example, I'm looking at this. This is my target. This is my partial. I mean, look at this, right? All of this liquidity, what a lot of people like to call an original consolidation, right? I don't even think I have that anymore. Yeah, in my layouts, I don't. But what I see is just the lows, right? There's a lot of liquidity resting below here, right? Price, what is the word for it? Price stalled in this area, so I understand we want to revisit it. Well, if we look specifically at this swing low on ES, this is where price stopped. So now once you have SMT at this area, it gives you a reason to get out of the trade. So I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit, but this just gives you the reason to get out of the trade. But nonetheless, I don't want to hold this trade until I'm up 4R without even taking partials, without even going break even. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to look for a better target that is closer to my entry. So in this case, I know there's a lot of here. There are a lot of breaker blocks in this area. So let's just do bearish breakers because we have a bearish framework, right? By the way, that's what I do every time I am looking for only one directional trade. I just put the indicator in bullish or bearish mode. That way, I don't have to see failed bullish breakers because I have a clear target. You have this one, you have these two, which are basically formed one above the other. These are pretty much the same. And you have the unicorns. This is your entry. So now I would like to use standard deviations and find a liquidity levels that aligns beautifully with them. So here I have relative equal lows aligning with the 2 to 2.5 standard deviation range. You guys know me. I'm never precise with these levels. I just want them to be close together. This is something I've even said like multiple times over in past reviews. I don't need them to align. I don't need them to be precise objectives. I just need them to be close in proximity because we can easily close within this range and wick this liquidity level. So this would be a clear partial for me. Does it offer enough risk to reward? 2.55, beautiful. And yes, it would have been hard with all this consolidation, but if you would have held through, then you would have still had a successful trade. Then after your partial, you go break even. And following that, you could have looked at 4 standard deviations, midnight open, or simply at just when that SMT was formed, when ES took what would have been your target partial, then in that case, that is a reason to get out of the trade or at least take profit very aggressively and trail your stop a little bit lower. Nonetheless, at 4 p.m. right here, you would have fully closed your trade. At least that is how I personally decide to trade as I am an intraday trader and not a multi-day trader or a swing trader. So a lot of opportunity, even on a weird day like this. So definitely sad I missed it, but quite happy to get back into it. Going to trade tomorrow and excited for next week. Feeling a lot better now. Had a rough few days, guys, but feeling a lot better. Do we have any questions? I feel like we went through so much there. We've already been here for 21 minutes of just me rambling about price. Could you quickly go back on today's daily structure, please? Gladly. So, if we go back to the 15-minute, right? I saw very clear open, low, high, close. I don't know how you saw open, high, low, close. Okay. For me, first of all, what I initially saw was whenever I see expansion at the beginning of the day and then straight directional, I'm like, okay, well, this could be a trending day to the downside, right? And in this case, once I saw bullish London, then I'm like, okay, we're doing back and forth. This is accumulation. Then we take out one side of that accumulation, which I'm looking at this full range. We take out one side, form SMT at an important time, 9:30, and then we have a London framework. So even just forget about daily structure, right? Daily structure is a confirmation, never a reason, right? Whenever I say daily structure, what I mean by that, I always say it. I say, does my trade or does my idea of a trade align with daily structure? I'm not saying, okay, well, because the daily structure is like this, I'm going to look for these types of trades. No, I always confirm with it. Why? Because what is the most important? Well, I need a framework. So I have a manipulation, time-based, once again, confirmed through SMT. I have a statistical framework that I've spoken about many, many times over. So now I have everything that tells me I can go short. My higher time frame bias was short, right? Looking to go target previous week's low after failing to close above previous week's high. And then, can I confirm that with the daily structure? Well, yes. How can I confirm that? This is all accumulation. If you frame this as a manipulation, all right, what important level did we reach or what important level did we take? Because I don't see one. All we did was drive lower, didn't take any important areas. Like even if we just reached those relative equal lows, I'd be more than happy to agree with you and say, okay, I can look for a bullish candle. But for me today, everything lined up beautifully to look for a bearish daily delivery and then having the confluence of the London framework forming, time-based manipulation. There is no reason myself why I would look for anything but a raid of previous day's low in this case. Or that's not even previous day's low, actually. What is this low? Just a beautiful relative equal lows. I feel like we saw that on a different time frame. Oh, I think we were looking at it on a 1 minute. That's why I'm confused now. Yeah, but beautiful equal lows on the 15-minute chart. Does that make a little more sense, Nico? Or maybe that brought a new question to you? I'm more than happy to spend some time on this. But for me, the daily structure is always a confirmation of a trade idea never a reason to look for a trade idea. I just had more of a bullish idea going into the day. Take that out of your head. Honestly, that might be the best advice I could give to you. Don't think before you're actually there. There's a reason why I never open my charts. I don't know if you were there when I talked about that, Nico, because you're almost always there, right? Um, but I talked about my pre-market routine, and this is something valuable, so I'll keep recording for this. But pretty much when I wake up early. I wake up around 8:15, 8:30 whenever I'm trading, like an hour before market open. I don't have much of a morning routine, and I don't eat before I trade. I want to be locked in, right? But I don't open my charts because every time I would open my charts, my win rate will go so much lower because I would look for any possible idea. And then I'd start framing like 20 different possibilities. But the truth is, the first one I got was most often the one that actually happened. So how do you fix that, right? Well, first of all, I come with a clear head. So I have no pre-existing ideas. So even if the previous day I kind of looked at it and I thought, oh, maybe we can look for bullish or bearish or whatever. Well, the previous night, I did not look at my charts at all. And then when I'm opening my charts 15 minutes before market open, because I don't want to give myself time to mess up, I look at it from a fresh start, fresh eyes. So if you're looking at market just before market open, right? This is 9:15. So this is almost 9:30 actually. But here, let's go even simpler. 9:15. What do I see? I see bullshit. I see back and forth. What does that mean? There's no way I can really frame a daily manipulation yet. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to wait. That's it. I mean, I could frame that there is SMT on those highs, which already makes it way higher probability than this low being an open low high close, right? Being a bullish candle. Because now since there's SMT at those highs, I can say, oh, well, maybe this was the daily manipulation. And now after having an open into consolidation, manipulation higher, distribution lower. Right? So at this point, I can start framing shorts, or in my mind, at least as a more experienced trader, when I see this, I'm like, okay, well, nothing's really pretty right now. But I'm still waiting for the news to have an effect, right? The news had no Judas swing. So now what am I going to expect? I'm going to look for 9:30 to do a manipulation. If my 9:30 does not do a manipulation, the only trades I'll be framing that day will be, I'll be waiting after expansion to look for a retracement. So looking for things like 10 a.m. reversals, 10:50 to 11:10 reversals, right? Looking for retracements in the PM session. But this is very rare that I can't frame an idea. And then we get to 9:30. What is the first thing we do? Well, we expand higher, confirm that SMT. Now, of course, we're skipping 15 minutes here. All right. So yes, a lot did happen in that 15 minutes, but it took you about 5 seconds or at least a minute when you see the 1 minute candle to figure out that, hey, okay, we close, we form some more SMT. This SMT on the highs is still valid. There's a lot of SMT on the highs, no SMT on the lows. Open, went to form a short-term low, right? But this is all accumulation, manipulated higher, formed that potential high of day, and then we can expand lower. More confidence since we have that London framework, which is a statistical edge. Hopefully I didn't go too in depth. This was meant to be very simple, and it was, but see, once again, I just pointed out every single thing that I saw. But at the end of the day, it's all for the same reasoning. So hopefully this little walkthrough helps you out. Awesome. You guys think this would be worthwhile adding to the resources tab? I feel like it could be. Just a little walkthrough of a pre-market routine, right? Just a little example. What do you guys think? I'm going to let you guys decide that. I don't want to fill it up with a bunch of bullshit. I really want concentrated value in there. And maybe at some point I'll make some independent videos and become an actual YouTuber, but I'm not feeling it. No thoughts on that regard? Oh, I'm seeing Nico type here. I'll give you a sec. Feel like it was a bit of a weird day with uncorrelated markets, and your explanation just gave you a very helpful for beginners. All right, then I'll definitely add it in. Do we have any final questions before we call it a night? One of the classic longer PA reviews, like we used to have back in the day, before I made them a little bit shorter, but barely. Awesome. All right, well, on that note, I wish you all a great night, guys. Good luck if you are training tomorrow. And we will not have a PA review tomorrow, but we'll be back in full force Sunday. And tomorrow I will be available in chat compared to the other day. So if you guys are curious, have any questions, feel free to tag me. That would be helpful for those who struggle with daily bias. Awesome. Thank you very much, Francisco. I appreciate that very much. Have a great night, you guys.